James.
All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the channel. Thinker St. James here. Of course, I've got Chase with me, doing a little bit of a midweek catch-up. A couple of things have happened since Monday, so coming back to talk a little bit about the UFC 314 press conference that just happened today, and the GFL imploding. Was the press conference was today, right? Yeah, it was earlier today. Yeah, and then of course the big news regarding the GFL and its implosion of their first two events, essentially their first 2-day event going down, and then after that we're going to be doing a little review, a little television review, since this is a show that we haven't heard a lot of people talking about. It's called The Cage. It's on Netflix. It involves MMA. We've both watched the first episode, so we're going to discuss that a little bit. Chase, how you doing, brother?
Dude, we're here. Like you said, we just watched the first episode of this show, but I know you guys are excited for it. We're going to get into some other things first.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's start off with the press conference, because there were a couple of moments at this thing. You know, you never know with these press conferences, right? Sometimes it's going to be somewhat of a sleepy affair. You know, these fighters come out here and say the same things that we've heard a million times before. Oh, I'm ready to fight. I'm in the best shape of my life. All this kind of stuff. You know, it's kind of well-worn territory, but this one had a couple of choice moments, I think, eh?
Yeah, I think it started off hilarious because let me explain it to you. So I watched it later after it had already done. I listened to everybody talk about it, and then I clicked on it and I'm watching them take their seats. So I flipped a little forward just to see the first question. And I think I flipped a little too far. Maybe not. Maybe it was the official first question, but Bryce Mitchell was asked, how do you think you're going to fare with getting knocked out by John Silver or something like that? Or how do you think you're going to deal with the brain damage of getting knocked out from John Silva? And Bryce Mitchell's response was, brother, I was born with brain damage. I think I'll be good.
At least he's honest, you know, at least he admits it up front. Bryce is always a pretty good sport about that kind of stuff. So I think that was a pretty good mark in his favor. Silva, on the other side of that coin, like they talk about the autism and all this kind of stuff. I'm obviously not here to rag on that specifically, but he has a very specific method of conducting himself with these press conferences, and it's a little bit off. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's like he doesn't deal with the spotlight like 100% on point. I guess maybe it's because he's new to it.
You're saying this is more than a language barrier thing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, definitely more than language barrier, and more than any of the, you know, the autism element of it. It's just he's kind of like he talks to Bryce directly a lot when people are asking him questions, you know. So it's like, and he constantly is kind of like doing this weird, like, sort of, don't worry about it, bro. Like, everything's gonna be okay. And like, it's just like, oh, I don't know. Like, it kind of creeps me out just to a little bit of an extent. But I mean, I whatever. I guess if he goes out there and does his thing, then what does it matter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another notable moment that came shortly after that, I don't remember what the question was or what made Bryce Mitchell say this. And when I read the headline of it first earlier, I said, what in the world? He's deranged as hell for this one. But then when I actually watched the clip, it makes it worse when you see the look in his eye as he says, I've put down many dogs before.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you brought that one up. So that is something that he not only did he say this in this press conference, but he talked about a similar basic concept on the Jackson podcast. And like during that, he was talking about essentially having to like beat dogs and like the Jackson guys. This is towards the end of the program. This is at the like after they had already talked about all of the other stuff and had already chastised him a whole bunch. Like he says that and they're like, buddy, you know that like we just told you people can take stuff out of context and clip it and like use it however they want. Like maybe this isn't the best thing to say. So he agrees with them there and then says it in this press conference too. It's like, what the hell's going on, Bryce?
Yeah, that one was pretty nuts because, like, even with his explanation, I'm still thinking, like, there's no better way. Like, hold on, like, you putting down many a dogs, man. That's you gotta get a fence, dude. Like, get something. Like, holy shit.
Exactly. He puts it in the context of, oh, I'm having to protect my chickens and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, bro, yeah, maybe some protective wiring might be able to keep wild animals out a little bit better than you having to put them down.
I think what's also to note, and this is I know Bryce Mitchell may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but when it comes to marketing, he does know what he's doing because right here, in my opinion, he meant coyotes, like, rabid,
Right, wild
feral
dog.
dogs,
Yeah, sure.
but like in the context with John Silva, putting the dogs down, like it just has like the same thing with you barking up the wrong tree. Like it just has like that. You remember him saying that to John Silva because like that's
Sure.
the dude who barks like a dog.
Yeah, well, and I thought that even with the kind of questionable nature of what he said, I thought it actually was decent trash talk in the end
True.
because the story ended up with like a satisfying conclusion where he's like, yeah, I've put down all these dogs, and the one thing that is always the same is that they're always yelping right before the hit. And I was
Yes.
like,
Oh my
geez.
goodness. Yeah, that was
Wow.
pretty nuts. That was pretty nuts. And unfortunately, they got pretty tame after that. Like I don't think there was any more arguments between them two. Like Jean Silva again was talking personally to Bryce Mitchell when he was asked questions, but Bryce, I don't think he said too much after that one. He came in, dropped his bars, Thug Nasty style, and he was ready. He was good to go. Checkmate, shout out.
Yes, shout out to Checkmate. Checkmate, who is doing big things over here now, has a stable of like 15 fighters being sponsored by Checkmate Entertainment. So shout out to you and your crew, brother.
Let me actually make a point. And I know we didn't know this. Are you able to send me the chat? Because this is only when you post the chat on the thing. And interesting enough, that's cool. I mean, I like how that sets up though. I thought it was going to be the entirety of the chat. My mistake, chat. This one's on me.
Yes, give me
But
1 second for that. But yeah, so what I wanted to say too, to what you just said about like the two of them not having anything else. Well, they didn't have an opportunity to have much else because then the big blow up was between Yair Rodriguez and Diego Lopez for some reason. And I don't know if maybe there's a history there that I wasn't aware of, but like it seemed to get pretty goddamn heated between those two for a while.
To be honest, my best guess, if I had to take a guess, and obviously I don't speak Spanish or Portuguese, whatever, Diego prefers to speak, but I said potentially, like, because when I went in the Discord, they were like, oh, Yair and Diego are going at it. And I was thinking, like, well, Yair probably called him a fake Mexican or something, because he's not native to Mexico or whatever. But then I also look at Diego Lopez, and he's dripped down head to toe, cowboy hat, tassels on the jacket, tan leather. Say that. And he was out there. I liked it. So if you're gonna call him the fake Mexican, brother, he looked the most Mexican anybody has ever looked. I tell you that.
He rocks the Tejano look like no one else, and it works for him tremendously, I would say. Yo, TJF, what's up, brother?
Facts.
Much love to you as well, my man. But yeah, no, it wasn't a fake Mexican comment that spurned the whole thing. What it was, which again, this is why it was so odd to me, was that the question seemed like a pretty innocent question. It was essentially to Diego, one of the guys asking questions, was asked if Yair wins his fight, would you be, if they both won their fight, essentially, if you win, the belt and Yair wins his fight, would you consider fighting him in Guadalajara for Noche? And or whenever, I think it's Noche is in
September.
So right in September, exactly. So and then Diego asked how many losses Yair had taken, which I thought was a pretty good response, fine response, whatever. And Yair just kind of like, that really set him off. It seemed like I don't know if there was anything else that was said. Of course, like you said, they're speaking Spanish, hard to keep up with 100% of the comments going back and forth, but it was like something within that line of dialogue really set Yair off, and he was standing up and he was grabbing the mic back while another question got asked to somebody else, and he's still going. And then after the press conference had like concluded proper, there's like they had to be broken up. They're talking to each other even more, and like I guess Yair had dissed Diego's team, and it just got really really spicy unexpectedly.
Yeah, and this is what people do when they're okay. Well, actually, let me point this out first. Yair is the exact type of person, I said this in the predictions video, exact type of person to go out there and talk shit to the person above him and then go lose the fight to the person that's below him. And it's not like I'm expecting him to come out here and get stomped, but a loss is a loss. And Yair, he just doesn't have the game to back up this type of talk. Like, first off, you're calling out Diego Lopez mad because you guys skipped in line, but brother, you don't win fights. So I don't know what you expect. You got choked out and beat down in your last two. And Diego Lopez has just been, mobbing through the division. And dude, he's just, I can't believe Yair thinks like, and it's funny too. He's got the mic and he does like the whole slam thing. Like, dude, you are a grown man. Like, I don't know. That dude just makes me fucking irritated. And then the fact that this is going to be his last ditch effort to like get a title shot. If he does win, it's like, okay, well now there's this fucking moment that he created. Like, he didn't actually like earn this in his in-ring ability, because even after a win, he does not deserve a title shot. But if he gets the title shot based off of this little marketable PR stunt kind of thing by him, I'm gonna be upset. If Diego wins, of course.
Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good point regarding how Yair kind of conducted himself there, and I think that the bigger issue to me is just immediately overlooking Patricio Pitbull. I mean, like, maybe I'm the one lone voice here because I had seen a good amount of his fights in Bellator that is really thinking that this is going to be a problem for Yair. But I don't think that looking past Pitbull is a good idea for him. And if this is what exactly kind of how you're outlining it, where this is just sort of a setting up of the next thing, then it would be very unfortunate, A, if it works, if he does win, or B, if he loses with that also now in the equation. It's like, one step at a time. You know what I mean? Diego did exactly that. One foot in front of the other, one step at a time. He proved himself to get to where he is. Like, you're now trying to essentially leapfrog with theatrics.
You know what I think is actually funny now that you bring up Patricio on the other side of this? I sat here and when he came up on the screen, I said, holy shit, this guy's Brazilian? Ain't that crazy? How did I not know this? Dude, he looks like the most American dude ever in pictures and in videos. But then when you see him, he's got like an actual tan and like the hair looks a little different. I don't know. That was weird Mandela effect stuff right there.
I guess so. Yeah, no, he most certainly is Brazilian and a dangerous guy. I mean, I don't think that he's somebody who should just be immediately overlooked, even if he has not been in the UFC before. Like, one of the most dominant fighters in the Bellator brand. Like, this is not somebody to just immediately look past. I felt bad for him in this press conference. This is his first time on the UFC stage. This is his big opportunity to show himself to the audience and, kind of get them familiarized with him. And the conversation just immediately steers away from him because of what Yair is doing.
Yeah, you could say that about Volkanovski too, man. He got the first question of the night, and then nobody gave a shit about him like after that. It's kind of upsetting. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that was a funny element of the Yair and Diego little back and forth was that, Diego's standing on the one side of the podium, kind of going over the podium. And Yair's on the other side of Volk. Yeah, and Volk is just, tiny Volk, just kind of, hey guys, how's it going up there? But Volk, no one really had too many great questions for Volk. They asked about, his seriousness when it came to his training for this one, which I guess he has been taking. He's dedicated to the sport. So I don't think that there's ever a time where he's not training significantly or taking any fight not seriously. But apparently for this one, he cut out all alcohol. He's very, no cheat days kind of thing. Very, very sticking to the game plan on this one. And then the only other question that somebody really had was like about the walkout music, about the Land Down Under. And it was like, why? That's a nothing question,
Another main part of it that was kind of funny, and they were talking about it in the Discord, and I didn't understand like how funny it could actually be, but listening to the translators try to keep up with Diego and Yair, they were trying their best, man. That was really hard for them. I know.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because the one thing that I did hear during the heated exchanges that did get translated was that I think it was Diego saying it to Yair, saying, "My team knows what you did," and
True,
I don't know.
I did hear that as well.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was in relation to something he had just said then, or maybe it's a rough translation or whatever. But it did kind of like make my ears perk up a little bit, because I'm like, what did he do? What are you talking about?
Well, I think another thing that my ears perked up as kind of like funny / interesting is, so there's that picture of Yair, Grasso, and Moreno, or whatever, when they all won the belts or whatever.
Yes.
And for the longest time, I would have assumed like, oh, okay, the Mexican, they're in the same camp, not Moreno specifically, but Yair and Grasso, potentially somehow he doesn't have any grappling. Maybe that's the case. But then, when they're at the podium and they get asked the question to Diego, like, Grasso as your teammate, like, do you think that's helped you more? And I'm like thinking, like, ain't that crazy? Like, the Brazilian walks into Mexico and he's got more connections to the people than Yair, man. I don't know. Like, dude, Yair's just there's a reason that people don't like him. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, is it a lot of people that don't like him, or is it just you that doesn't like him?
There's some more that don't like him. I mean, okay. I just think of every time I've seen him, he's given me more reasons to not like him than I've seen a decent amount of him. Like, going up against Volk, I didn't watch the lead up to it, but watch how he like fucking, I don't know. It was the performance, yes, but then going into the next fight with Brian Ortega, the same shit. Exactly what I thought was going to happened. And I don't know. He's just a dude that doesn't give me faith that he's top contention, which he, as we see now, he believes that he is. I never really thought of that before, because I never really hear him talk too much. But the fact you're going at Diego Lopez, who literally is just trying to be active and finish people,
right?
And like, there's just no need, bro.
Yeah, no, well, I understand that aspect of it for sure.
And Diego asking how many losses Yair has, he does have more. I don't know. That was a weird thing to bring up.
Yeah, well, I guess it's in a row, but he hasn't lost like a ton in a row. I don't.
I mean, not in a row, but he's lost 6 times compared to Yair's 5. So the point that he brought up losses, I'm just like,
yeah. Well, I mean, either way, I think it was in the moment. The kind of like again, it's like Diego is like a nice guy too, so it's like that's just kind of like a nice guy response ish sort of thing, to be like, I'm still better, but like not have to like be like, fuck you and your family kind of thing, but yeah, whatever. I mean, either way, I think that it was interesting to say the least with the two of them, and we'll see who wins those fights. One other thing that I caught during this press conference that made me laugh was Michael Chandler. At one point, they're talking a lot of back and forth about that fight with Paddy Pimblett. At one point, it was really quick, but Michael Chandler said, "I'm the safest bet in the UFC." It was like, wow.
No, I can give you the context to it.
Okay.
He was talking about it was something about an interest, the most exciting fight. Like, if you need the most electrifying fight on the card,
said that too.
Like, I'm the biggest bet on the card or whatever like that. If you need fight of the night.
I thought that they were two separate things, but okay. I mean, it could have been, because I know the exchange you're talking about there.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, with that one though, I kind of give him a little bit of credit, because he's not wrong in what he said there to an extent, right? I mean, like, his fights are generally kill or be killed for the most part. Last one kind of aside, but it was still entertaining. So, whether or not you like him and hate him, all of the losses that he's taken, this and that, he does still put on an entertaining show.
Well, and to that point, I was sitting here, and as he said that, I sat here and thought back to an original thought that I had, like back when McGregor and Michael Chandler was actually a possibility. I sat questioning, why would they ever make this matchup? This is a 2-division champ versus a dude who's literally barely won in the UFC kind of deal. But then when you look at it as like, you're going to get the most known UFC fighter against the most exciting UFC fighter as of right now. Like, Michael Chandler does have that to his name. I mean, Iron Mike is Justin Gaethje wears the highlight as his nickname, but Michael Chandler may as well also.
Sure. And I'm glad that they finally called him on being a dirty fighter. And I thought that his response to that did make sense. But it's like, what are you going to say that is going to be able to negate the reality of that? So I thought it was as good as it could be. But he is right. I mean, again, it's not completely wrong. It's like the ref is going to do what the ref is going to do, and I'm going to fight the fight that I fight, and that's going to be what it's going to be. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but I do understand it, I guess.
One other thing that I think I want to note is that Diego and Yair, well, and Volk is also in the mix. Like they're all doing, not Volk doing the yapping, but Yair and Diego were doing the yapping. Volk is obviously in the mix there. But we have to remember that John Silva is 2 fights away from fighting any of these guys.
That's a
So
good point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, again, if he wins his fight, right? I mean, this is the
true.
$1 million question over here as to how that fight's going to go. I think I saw on Twitter that they're saying it's amazing how much hype is around this fight, being that it's essentially just another fight on the card. It's not co-main, it's not main event, but this the John Silva and Bryce Mitchell fight is a lot of conversation around it.
I just think I've seen Bryce Mitchell fight a handful of times now. He's shown up to those fights. With Danny Gay, he was in a very spiritual mood, the freedom, and then
Yes.
they prayed after it for the fires in Hawaii, whatever the case was. And then the next fight with Emmett, I don't really remember him being too overly into something specific, but he's always has this chill, mellow vibe. But tonight, watching the press conference, I'm telling you, that moment about the line with the dog that I've put down many of dogs in my days. The look in his eye, dude, he just had the 1,000-yard stare. Like and I don't know, dude. He's got me thinking, like, man, maybe bet the farm is what we're gonna do. Like a farmer strength is a real thing, guys. If Bryce Mitchell gets his hand locked around his waist, this ain't Charles Jourdain. I'm just saying. So
Fair. And the other time that stood out to me, usually I cut the press conferences before they do the stare downs because I'm like, what are you really going to get out of the stare downs? There's not too much to see there. But I let it go for this time. And his stare down with Silva he was intense as hell during that thing, dude. I mean, like eyes wide, right in his face kind of
yeah,
thing,
I
like
know.
really bearing down. So there might be something to that.
Dude, I think that I think I'm okay accepting that it's just gonna be a finish in the fight. I don't know who's gonna do it, but honestly, Bryce Mitchell is a wild card. Like I would not rule out that he somehow, some way chins John Silva, guys.
You heard it here
Somehow.
first. I mean, that would be rather wild. Arrogant
I'm
Savage, what's up, brother?
Yeah, for facts. But no, this one's gonna be a good one. Um, I really enjoyed this press conference. Actually, 40 minutes was actually a pretty good runtime compared to the time where you missed the first 5 and you've already missed like 10 minutes of questions and then it's over.
Yeah. No, this was a fun one. I enjoyed it. I thought that Patty Pimblett's neon shirt was an interesting choice. I guess that's some. I see that occasionally in the gym. People wearing like neon colors, and I don't really understand the appeal of that. But he did his thing with that, and everything else was good too.
Can we normalize hand picking the people to go on the podium? Why did Nikita Krylov and Dominic Reyes go up there? They got asked one question and then nobody gave a shit about them. But like my
Yeah,
point is, we could have had Jim Miller and Chase Hooper up there.
it's a
They
good
probably
point.
would have got to ask the same amount of questions, but like Jim Miller at this time in his career, like why y'all dogging him like this? Just like let him do the experience. Like people know who Jim Miller is. Like I mean, I know he's gonna say the same thing every single time, but like, yo, I want to hear it for 2025 version. Like,
Yeah, no, fair. I mean, it was funny with Krylov and Reyes because Krylov, I thought that his answer was pretty decent. Saying, "Hey, do I ever fight cautiously, man? I'm a run and gun kind of guy. Whatever, is saying how exciting he's going to be." But then with Reyes, it was even funnier though because Reyes comes in, or they asked Reyes, bro, you were in a situation where doctors were telling you that you might never fight again. Like, what does it mean to you to be up here right now? And he was just like, I'm ready. Let's go. It's just like, I mean, there's a little bit more to that question, but
Yeah,
yeah, whatever. He's just happy to be there. There you go.
right.
And I guess that's the takeaway at the end of everything, right? Is it's just like they're happy to be there, man. Just let these guys let them have
Yeah.
their fun.
If anything, go watch Volk during the entire press conference, and he was just happy to be there, man. I can tell
It's
you that.
true. Yeah, Volk is always a happy
And
guy.
he's actually a really, you can even tell in the little details of his his personality. You can tell that he's just a real nice guy, because at the end, like, he's just sitting there having a good time, and then they start asking him a question, and he's like, oh, okay, and he's like back into it, and he's like listening, and then he goes back to just like hanging out, because like, and then they're like, no, he's still asking you. Oh, he's like, oh, my bad, like, he's just like, I don't know. He was trying to give him his attention, and like he wasn't trying to, like, just go back to his day, but everybody else was getting asked questions. Like, he was already sitting there for 20, 30 minutes. It's like, oh shit, I am getting asked questions. I am about to fight for the belt.
I would think at this point it's such old hat for Volk that like he's just sort of like it's like cooking eggs for him or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just kind of like, hey, I'm over here. I'm doing this. I'm checking my phone. Oh yeah, question. Okay, all right,
Yeah. Yeah. He's
So
cool,
yeah,
man. I
he's a
really, he
seasoned.
just carries himself well. I love it.
Yeah, seasoned veteran Volkanovski, of course. So, I mean, I
Talking
don't know.
about seasoned vets. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
well, yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I don't think that there's really anything else to talk about with the press conference. So let's get into it. Usually, if you watch our podcast, of course, myself and Chase are on the Last Week's Fights podcast right here on the channel. We have been covering the GFL from the second that it was announced all the way to this very day. And if you've been paying attention, you may have heard the GFL has canceled their first event altogether. It has been completely scrubbed. It was supposed to be a 2-day event. We had talked about the fights that were announced for this event on the show. That was the last that we had talked about it. And then just yesterday, I believe, it comes out that no more event. RIP GFL for right now, at least.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's actually very impressive that if, quote unquote, a lot of money, millions or billions of dollars was dumped into this, and they've ran out in 3 months, something like that. Pretty interesting, because there's one crucial note. When we found out the GFL was not going to have their 2-day event, the specific note on the tweet was, fighters and teams have not been notified about this yet. They have found out through social media. And that's pretty hilarious. And you may have a note on that as well. But then there's another one that comes out that says the fighters were even asked if they could get paid on later dates. And that one was really, really funny. So,
Yeah. Well, so basically, the way that Darren Owens, I believe, is the main guy there. The way that he described the situation was that one of their major backers did not come through with their financial obligation. So somebody that they were waiting on money from did not come through with that money. That is essentially what canceled the event. What Chase said is absolutely true. The fighters were not notified until they've all found out about it online. But then the point that he's making here about fighters getting paid later, that was already going to be the circumstances. That was
nice.
that was something that they were asking them when the event was still on. They were asking them, "Hey, if you fight on Saturday, can we pay you 10 days later?"
Say the
And
meme. Say
yeah,
the
of
meme.
course, I will gladly pay you on Thursday for a hamburger today. I mean, it's nothing more clear, Popeye in real life. So, yeah, I mean, a wimpy situation with Darren Owens over there. But yeah, so these fighters are now scattered. So the crazier part too, we talked about this as well, is that half of the roster did not even agree to be on the roster to begin with. There were fighters who were claiming, or the organization was claiming that fighters were signed when the fighters were saying that they weren't signed, or other organizations were saying that those fighters were under contract. So the fighters that did sign on, now they're all scattered about saying that, we're going elsewhere, whatever. I just saw that Paige Van Zant had posted that she's a free agent now.
Yeah, I mean, they're all technically free agents until
Of
they're not
course.
at the GFL. Robellis is a free agent until Karate Combat has their event in March. I don't know when it's coming, guys. I'm still waiting. I promise.
Yeah, that's for next year's March.
I think I knew the end of it, because they were touting one of their main events. I'm pretty sure it was Frank Mir versus Fabricio Verdum, and then Fabricio got injured and then retired again. And I was like, Okay, it was just that easy. You're just like, oh man, fuck it ain't gonna work, guys. I gotta go. And that's gonna be half the roster. Like, I mean, if not them getting hurt in camp, they're gonna like pull muscles and shit in the fucking cage, like because they're fucking old. Like that's what old people do. They cramp easier. Like, I don't know. So it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah,
If we ever see it. Let me
right.
say that.
Well, so the final note, at least as of right now, is that there is still potential that they might try to get this event off the ground somewhere else at some other time. So maybe if this financial backer that they're talking about comes through with the money that they had promised, there is potential for it to happen, but it will not be at the place it was going to be at, and it's not going to be at the time that it was going to be at. So I mean, this doesn't necessarily mean that the GFL is completely off the radar altogether. They, at least from Darren Owen's perspective, saying that they're still wanting to do it, that this is not the end of the road and all this kind of stuff. But the point that you make, Chase, is a good one, that it's like the longer that you wait for these fights to happen, the more potential for injuries, the more, that they could get injured if they're actually in there will still be the case. But the more other things outside of the fights themselves can happen. Other guys who just, also decide that they don't want to fight anymore. People getting offers from other places. Who knows what these actual contracts are looking like, if there even are contracts at all. So, yeah, it's a very precarious situation with this GFL thing.
I think I said it in the Discord already, but I dead ass want to know what Ray Longo was thinking about all this situation, dude. He's still listed as a coach. Clearly, his team was ready to go. I mean, I know like this. What is this? The New York team, but he was ready to go at some time, and he was letting his team know that guys, we got to get in shape. We got to stay ready. Don't have to get ready because we're never gonna have to get ready. I was believing in Ray Longo, and I know something is up, but he's gonna get to the bottom of it, and I really hope to get some answers from him here soon.
Well, yes, Ray, we're going to need some comments immediately. So, maybe the organization's like, hey, don't speak out on this right now. Perhaps for some fighters, some coaches, people who are involved, if they're going to continue being involved, maybe they've asked them to be a little bit more quiet. But we'll keep our ear to the ground, see what Ray Longo has to say about these things.
If a major investor fell through on the GFLs, be worried oil's running out, I think.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think that everybody's sort of thought that this was kind of a shoddily put together concept to begin with. And now we're seeing what happens when you get farther down the line in this game. That's not an easy one to run. These guys think that they can just come in here and put together some fights, and then all of a sudden you have yourself a promotion. It's a lot more complicated than that.
True, and especially when they're trying to be, I use the word pretentious, but I don't think that's necessarily the right word, but they're trying to be too out there. They're trying to accomplish too much in the first fucking go at it. Like they want to have teams, they want to have, the managers, coaches, and vice presidents on every different, organization or, every different team. And it's like, and then going along with the retirement pay and how they want to do this different pay system and how they're going to be funded by this person and funded. It's like they're just doing too much. Maybe precarious is maybe the right word. I don't know.
I think ambitious might be the
True,
way to put it.
Okay,
It's like I think that they're being a little big for their britches, biting off a little more than they can chew with the concept is how I'm looking at it. And really, I mean, all of the things that they want for the concept, I think, are good in and of themselves. Like,
when you write it down, it maybe adds
correct.
up, but
Yeah,
things
exactly.
happen.
Yeah, on paper, it's a nice concept. I mean, I think that the teams thing is like, I'm not a big fan of that, but like the core tenets of what they wanted to like have separate them from other organizations, like the fighter pay, like the insurance and post-career stuff. Like I like that, but it doesn't equal up to the actual boots on the ground as far as like how the thing is going to run.
I know you said it and you've said it before, and I feel like we can have this discussion more times as soon as we see how it pans out. I think the teams aspect, for what I believe I'm understanding it as, what I have the idea of, I think it's good. But will they execute it in a way that I'm thinking it can work out? I don't know. But necessarily, if you do a whole card with a team versus a whole card versus another team, I think it'll be cool because then you could root for the team that shows up on that card, not just one person. Like it's, I don't know. I think it'll be really fun. I don't know how the point system is going to work. We can get into all that at a different time if they ever have an event.
I was going to say, I mean, like, this is all way theoretical at the moment. Because I was going to say, I'm down with the team concept if the team logos are cool, because then I could get, the Miami team and I could rock the Miami team shirt, and that's a cool thing. But like, who knows if we're ever going to get anything at this point?
What I think is also, it's I don't know. I kind of forgot what I was going to say, but this is just it's interesting. And the fact that it may or may not, oh no, what I was going to say is this is kind of like, it feels like they're still at the drawing board, laying the tracks as the train's going. Like they didn't, normally something like this is like, okay, we've developed this plan for the past 5 years. We've been putting our brain power into it. Like they worked harder making Marvel movies than these dudes came in here.
Yeah, but see, that's funny though, because this concept has been in development for that long. I remember this is way before Yama even. This is like going back probably about 5 years, where they had I think it was Ariel had said something about, oh, there's a new organization that's going to, it was framed up with the things that I was saying that I liked. It was an organization that's going to have better pay structure for fighters and insurance and all this kind of stuff. And I think they might have mentioned the team aspect of it even back then too. And then it just went away. It was just like, oh, it's kind of like a rumbling, and then it just nothing ever happened again. So like, but then that became this, and that's going back multiple years. So they have had the time to do all this workshopping, and this is what we've gotten to. So I don't know if maybe it just was poor planning throughout all of that time, or if other things, fell off in between or whatever, or maybe also, I mean, one thing I think a lot of people think, and I would say is probably becoming more apparent, is that maybe they never had the money to do all of this stuff in the first place. And then a couple of people said, hey, yeah, I'll give you a couple bucks. And then,
Crowdfunding.
yeah, really. Bro, at this point, I think that some crowdfunded MMA projects might actually have better shots than something like this. Like how many rich uncles can these guys have? Like how many times can Saudi Arabia come in and make these things happen for everybody? Because obviously Saudi Arabia is in with the UFC and PFL. Like there's only so much Saudi money to go around as well. You know what I mean? Like,
I think what is a big issue here, Sigma, what is up?
what
I think, they set, I know you have to get people on board. So you tell them all the great things that you're planning, but then you can't really live up to heaven. Like that, you can't make everything perfect. And that's what they sold the idea as. Like, this is going to be the MMA hotspot for athletes. Like, this is where you want to be because we're going to take good care of you. And then here we are.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's one of the fatal flaws of the way that they went about acquiring, or potentially acquiring, saying that they had acquired talent, is that you have a lot of the things that other fighters might want in an organization, but at the same time, you're bringing in a lot of essentially over the hill fighters, past their prime fighters. So, like, what, like if I'm a fighter in my prime, why I'm not going to go in there and necessarily want to be having to go up against Fabricio Verdum, I mean, like I'm in the prime of my life over here. I'm right there in the swing of things. Like, so, even if the organization's trappings sound good, like the rest of it is not what would be like enticing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I don't know. This one's just, like I said, train wreck, laying the tracks as the train's rolling along. And I don't know if we're ever going to see the 2-day MMA event. I do listen when we talked about the Abu Dhabi cards, I think it was, or maybe it was the Saudi Arabia card, how I said they treat it more like a festival and then fights are just going on. If the GFL was trying to have like a 2-day festival and there just happens to be fights going on, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's like I'm telling you, I think that it does have potential, especially with all the backdoor things going on with the pay and stuff like that. But can not every idea lives up to its potential. There's a lot of great ideas out there, but there just wasn't the right person with the right amount of resources to make it happen.
Yeah, most definitely that. And as I kind of had alluded to, I think I said a little bit about it at some point on one of these streams that we've done. I know a little bit about some of the other stuff when it comes to the main guy over there at GFL. And he's already been involved in ideas that have not come to fruition the way that they were supposed to. And those ideas are ones that involved a lot of alleged mishandling of funds and things like that. From what I've heard, this is all speculation and rumors. I'm not making any definitive statements on any of this. I'm just saying these are the rumblings. So if you've already got a leader at the top of the ship that is somewhat on shaky ground,
You got a
then
drunk captain, actually.
right, exactly. You know, the rocks get closer and closer as that ship is steered. So none of this is overly surprising. I think a lot of people are not very surprised by this being the outcome here. I would have thought that they would have at least gotten to their first event. I think it was even a little. We're talking about how ambitious they are. I think it was a little ambitious to even go this hard on event number one. Why was this even a 2-day event to begin with?
Why not, man? Do what
Well,
you want.
we know why not now.
Yeah, true.
You know?
You know what would be funny is if the next time they announce it, it's like it's a 1-day event, and then it's like they cancel again, and then it's like, guys, we give it up. You know, it was nice thought, but maybe we'll get a 1-day event, and maybe that'll actually just be something solid where they just smush everything together. Because you got to imagine these guys aren't gonna. None of these old people are gonna fight until the bell. Like these are gonna be quick fights where people fall over and they're TKO kind of deal.
Yeah, no, fair. Checkmate. If anybody on the internet thinks they know what it takes to put on a successful show, they have no idea. Yeah, I mean, this is a good point, right? I mean, we're even talking about like regional shows and stuff like that. There's so much behind the scenes that goes on people don't know about, like to do something on this massive of a scale. I think that's also why I was saying about like the 2-day event being very ambitious. It's like, you're talking about a large roster of fighters, a lot of which, you got to remember too, I would say anyway. I mean, I don't know what the individual contracts were like for people, but a lot of these fighters, they probably still have a decently high valuation on themselves. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Rebellis.
Well, sure. Robellis is he's got something going in karate combat, so there's definitely a price tag there. But someone like Paige Van Zandt, I mean, like, granted, she's when it comes to combat sports, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but she's still a big name. I mean, she's got a very large following, obviously. Doing her power slap thing, whatever, the husband in the UFC. I mean, there's a lot that comes with that. But even going back to like the fighters like a Fabricio Verdum or like Frank Mir, who he was supposed to fight or whatever. Like these are names. I mean, that's why they were touted on this card to begin with, is that they could draw off of the name value. So you'd think, well, if you're buying me essentially for my name, then I want what I'm worth, because the name is still valuable. So there might have been a whole lot of things regarding contracts and all that kind of stuff that made the funds a little bit shaky, and then the venue and everything else. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. It's just a very tall order, especially to then have it be a 2-day event. And if Dylan Dennis is involved, that things are going to go sideways.
Hell yeah. I don't know, man. GFL is, like you said, shaky grounds right now. If people didn't already believe in the product, or they didn't believe in the people behind there's already one investor that pulled it. So who's to say the other ones are like, well, he knows what he's talking about. I've invested with him before. We've invested in other promotions together. If he's jumping ship, he sees what I don't. He's done it before. He knows well. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy that one investor pulling out took the bottom out of the entire thing, right? That's another element of it too, for sure. Jojo Smoke says, saddest part is that Tony's win streak won't happen now, brother. I am with you.
He's still undefeated in 2025. It's okay.
It's a good point. Not a single loss this year. So it can still happen. Maybe goes over to Octagon. That could happen too. KSW. Yeah. There's plenty of places.
BKFC.
Tony and BKFC would be the worst thing to ever happen in the history of combat sports.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, I mean, I guess that's about where we're at with the GFL right now. That's all the information that has come out. Keep your ears open. Of course, we certainly will. There's nothing to say that this won't eventually get resolved and that an event won't happen. It's just not going to be where and when it was supposed to, but something else could be coming down the line. I've been seeing the memes going around. I think Checkmate posted one of the tombstone with the GFL logo on it, 25 to 25. I wouldn't put it in the ground just yet, but it's getting a lot closer than it might have been previously.
Yep, I agree.
Indeed. All right. Well, that all being said, Chase, do you want to get into this show that we both watched called The Cage?
I would love to. First, I want to say that it is a show that came out so long ago, and I specifically can tell you I've never seen a single scene online memed on like on Twitter. I've never come across like, oh, look at this funny moment from the. It's like nobody watched this show, I don't think, and because of how the episode goes, and we're going to break down a lot of things that go on through it. But even towards the end of the episode, you can tell nobody watched the show because that would have been all over social media. That would have been all over it. So I think it's just really funny to make that note. But yes, this is The Cage. Came out last year, I believe.
Yeah, I think sometime late last year.
And was filmed. Well, actually, yeah, and was probably filmed the year before. But it does take place around UFC Paris because they
Right.
talk about Man and Benoit, and then obviously, Cyril Gane. But we can get into the beginning of it. I'll let you
Yeah.
start.
Sure. Well, so this is the show is called The Cage. It's on Netflix. It is a French production, so a lot of French fighters involved in this show, as Chase mentioned a couple of those. Yeah, well, I think a funny thing to note for me personally is that, I have been boycotting Netflix since the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight because of how atrocious that viewing experience was. But we had talked about wanting to watch this and how no one has been talking about or essentially had watched it that we knew of. So I was like, all right, I'll get into this. I will try to figure out a way to watch this right. So I went over to a Russian friend of mine's house to do some viewing of this. And when we went to go look for this episode, there's also another show called The Cage on Netflix. It is a Arabic language show. I think it's a comedy, but it's basically Arabic marriage counseling, and it was rather difficult to get through. And for the first 10 minutes, because it's also in a foreign language, I didn't know that it was the wrong show. So I'm sitting here kind of watching, like, wait, I was like, when does the fighting start here? But so anyway, just a funny note there that if you're going to watch this show, make sure you watch the French show called The Cage and not the Arabic show called The Cage. But this is a show about a young up and coming fighter and his journey in mixed martial arts. We watched the first episode only, so that's what we're going to be talking about here today.
Okay, so I'll start how it opens up because I think it's
Yes.
really funny. It starts by, and this is one of the cliches on the website. It's like, the doors open and the holy light is shining, and he walks through and he's in an arena or whatever. And there's, I don't know if you noticed it, 7 to 10 people standing in the crowd, and like at the actual like walk-in part of it, and then the rest of it is just CGI people, which I thought was really, really funny because like it's just like blank people just standing there with their hands in their pockets. But
Sure.
then when you look down towards the in ring side of it, like it's just like 10 people. So it was really funny to note that. And then, has one of those moments where he locks in, the crowd goes silent, you can hear like his heartbeat or whatever, and then title card. And I thought that was really, really funny to start the show.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I loved that in that moment that you're talking about there. That's a flash forward sequence, by the way. This is so
sorry.
like, yeah. Well, no, but I mean that's just the framing of it. So this is like the conclusion of everything. But him being in the big show, whatever that may be, we'll find out through the course of the show. But I love that on commentary, because they're playing the commentary while he's walking out or whatever, and the commentary is very on the nose out the gate, saying nobody believed in this guy whatsoever. Like this is something that you're going to hear a lot of us say over the course of this, is that this show is packed with very on the nose moments and all of the cliches that you could possibly imagine. This is like if an AI generator for MMA cliches wrote a script, this would kind of be it.
Yeah, no, this was pretty funny. The opening scene, and then you get to the title. Do you have anything else after that scene?
No,
Because I think going after the title, it gets really funny too.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, the whole thing continuing on is absolutely. Okay. But yeah, no, the only other note that I had is a general note, because I think both of us watched the dub version.
Mm-hmm.
They have it, of course, in its native French, but you can watch it dubbed in English. The dub is like anime dubbing. Like it is, some of the voice acting in this dubbing is rather expressive.
See, this was the first time and for the stream context, I normally don't do well with dubs because I'm trying to watch I normally look at the face, and if I'm watching the voice and it doesn't match up, it really fucks with me. But as I was taking notes today, first time ever, it was very easy for me to like sink into the story because I'm just listening to the voices. And the fact that you don't like the voice actors, I thought that they were doing pretty solid. We'll get into some funnier ones, but the main villain, we'll talk about him in a little bit.
Oh
His
yeah.
voice actor was pretty solid, I thought.
It wasn't that they were bad voice actors. It's just that they were emoting in a way that wasn't always exactly what the actual actors were emoting. So it was
Okay.
like, a little bit of a disconnect there, I would say. So it just was funny for me in that regard. But
Yes. Yes, checkmate. We're talking about the French Netflix show. Yes, exactly.
yes,
So anyway,
absolutely.
okay, title card hits, and then the title card was actually really not great. It didn't match the vibe of the show. That was kind of
Very
weird. I don't know.
plain.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so anyway, then cue the rap music, let him start running. It's a casual run. He's not running anywhere because the scene ends and he never runs anywhere. He he never gets to his place. I remember watching and I'm like, okay, this is the moment. Obviously you got the rap music, you got him running. This is the get hype. He runs nowhere. He doesn't anyway. Scene ends, opens up the gym, all right, and he walks in, right, and you got the moment where he stands in the middle of the fucking room and he's looking around like, man, this is my gym, like this is where I'm at, guys. And then you get the, hey man, and he hits the, and like the dude right fucking next to him who didn't say anything to when he walked in is like standing there playing on his phone. He's like, I gotta show you something, kind of deal. And it was right then and there. I was like, man, this is gonna be a watch. This is gonna be a watch because they are just. It's like, I don't know if it's like first time filmography, but it's like they watched. They went to school for it. Like that's what it feels like, and they're like doing textbook style scenes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is that the way that I described it also. I said it was AI like, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but it's definitely like a dude who is a big UFC fan, went to film school and then made the UFC show.
Yeah,
Like but so yeah, going into the sequence when he's in the gym now, it starts off presumably he was running to the gym, but we never
yeah.
do we never do find out if that's where he was, but
He
he
shows
ends
up
up
in different clothes as well.
exactly. So, but so he's in the gym and I think it was funny too cuz this fighter at the time that he's at the gym here now is an amateur fighter and he has a couple of wins under his belt. So he's telling the owner of the gym who's like the main boss man of the gym. He's like, "Hey dude, I just went out and fought and I got a submission and I was repping the gym." Boss does not care whatsoever that he was doing that. Then he ends up having to go and train with this girl who she's late to training, and like all of a sudden now she's schooling him.
I think I see where I've taken a lot more notes of what I thought was funny because
Okay.
absolutely, he walks in the gym and the moment with his buddy and he's like, that could be you one day. And then the coach walks by and he's like, hey, coach. And the coach blows him off. Coach, hey, coach.
Oh
Coach
yeah.
absolutely doesn't give a shit about this dude.
Yeah. Coach
He
does not like this guy whatsoever for
I
some
have
reason.
that so many times. Like the coach absolutely doesn't fucking like him. Okay, anyway, woman walks in late and she goes right up to the coach and says, I want to train with him. And the coach is like, you can't train with him. And it's funny because they play it off as like, oh, because you're a woman. And then he's like, because you were late and you know the rules. And like, and then so they go to the training, right? Okay, so they go to the training. Oh, I actually put woman can't train with Lapillus because if we're gonna point in all the moments that the stars show up, Taylor Lapillus plays an amateur fighter in this club. I want to make this note now because I'll bring it up later. There are UFC fighters who portray amateur fighters, and there are actors who portray UFC fighters in this show. Doesn't make sense to me right
Well,
there.
so okay though, because I thought the same thing, but this is another odd point here. So Lapillus is in the gym as that fighter, but then he's also himself on the broadcast.
Dude, you're right. I didn't even think about that later when he's all in his suit. Yes,
Yeah,
you are absolutely correct. And
very
then
strange.
it was so weird later, and we'll talk about it. They're like, yeah, these are UFC fighters. They're coming to show you guys a few things. And it's literally just two fucking randoms. But like, anyway, okay.
Yeah,
I also wanted to make a note back to okay, so she couldn't train with Lapillus because she didn't show up on time, quote unquote, because she's a woman. Then our hero gets to spar with her, and he's getting schooled by the girl. Not,
right.
not only is he okay, maybe go light and actually like win, but don't school her. But it's like he's getting absolutely dominated. Throws a decent tornado kick. I'll give him that. Then I put again, getting shown up by a girl. Then I put, she's cooking him. And then
Yeah,
and then we get to the point.
and giving him pointers too, all throughout
Yeah,
all of this.
yeah, exactly. She's telling him how to get better. Yeah,
Right.
that's the crazy part. Okay, so that scene ends. We watch him get worked over. They get a drink of water. I have coach still doesn't give a fuck about him, doesn't believe in him, whatever. And then you get the point where he says that he says it in a way that is kind of stupid, but maybe it's a translation thing. He's like, I can't even put two words together. And it's like, so you can't talk, like, and I think he meant he's dyslexic. I think that is what he was getting at.
I thought he was saying that when he writes, he his name. Whatever. The point is though, is that like, because I have that in the notes too, is that more on the nose stuff. This was his. This is all I got speech. Basically, is what he's doing with the coach. I'm dedicated to this. This is my entire life. This is what I want to do for my life. And I can't do anything else. This is all I have in life. So you got to believe in me, coach. And then the coach still doesn't believe in him.
So actually, I forgot to give main context to this. This is after the sparring session. This is when our hero is flagging down the coach on his way out. The coach is trying to get in his car and leave. And then you get this scene of the coach telling him absolutely the shittiest things ever for a coach to say. And it's really funny because our main hero, like every time it cuts to his face, he's just just standing there blank, blank.
He wears that a lot in this show.
Yes. Okay. So, and then he drops the "okay, buddy" line. Are you okay, buddy? Like, who do you think you are? Okay. And then I made note, gets into his nice car and leaves. That was another note.
I didn't notice.
Didn't drive his Corolla. Didn't make it seem like he's helping the fighters. No. All right. Hey, you still need help? I got to go get the pizza for the fam. It's like, dude, he's literally asking you for help. He wants more attention in the gym. And he's like, okay, buddy, opens his door of his fucking Nissan fucking Altima. Or, I don't know. It was an SUV. I don't know cars, but it was a nice car to say the least. And he got in and fucking left. And I thought it was a funny, funny moment. And then the next scene is even funnier. So if there's anything else you want to add about the coach.
No. I mean, just the fact that this coach is like, we don't really get a lot of context as to why the coach is so like not believing in his student. Because theoretically, I mean, this kid is like, the only thing that I guess maybe could be something in there is that at one point the kid did say that he might think about quitting, but like, that was really, to me, I was like, the entire time with the coach, I'm just like, get a new gym, bro. Like, why are you staying here?
I think it happened also, and I didn't make a note of it already, but the coach does have a star pupil that he does not. He loves that guy to death, even though we'll talk about later, he's not the student that our hero is. So it also adds to the coach is playing favorites for the person who's not even deserving of the, that honor.
Right. Well, and the star student, by the way, is named Red One. And that's a very funny thing to me because the name Redwan is a name. That's a standard name, or whatever. It is a name that exists, but they pronounce it in the dub Red One, which, as you may know, is a movie that about Santa Claus that just came out recently. But it's also the name of the producer who produced the song "Starships" by Nicki Minaj. Little fact for you that I happen to know. Don't ask why I know it. I just do. But so anyway, time that they talk about this Red One guy, I'm always like, oh yeah, Red One from Nicki Minaj's Starships. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So going into the next scene, this one is top tier, hilarious. He walks into presumably his mother's home, and his mom is sitting there smoking a cigarette. Playing on her phone. I wrote degenerate mom, iPad kid mom, Coke drinking mom, and she's a bitch. Like, she was such a fucking, like, she said there's Coke in the fridge. He said, I don't drink that. She said, well, why don't you stop talking and get me one? Like, who do you think you are? And then I also want to make a note. Oh wait, go ahead.
Well, no. I mean, it's just that they were laying it on so thick with the mother character for all of the negative traits that you could possibly have as a parent. But continue.
Yes, and then she asks for money, right? And then she plays the pity card. She did, like, it was all in one fell swoop. She's like, well, I would, are you able to help with rent this month? And he's like, well, mom, aren't you able? And she's like, it's fine. I'll figure it out. Like, I'm okay. Like, whatever, and anyway, if you notice in this scene, our hero was filling up a cup of water. He set it on the table, took maybe one drink, and then he walks out. He kisses his mom on the head, leaves the cup on the table, and then walks out. Maybe that's why she's not a big fan of him. I don't know, because he leaves things everywhere, all over the house. If you actually go to a scene later on, you watch his apartment where he has bottles with no caps on them. So I'm just saying, maybe it's
One of
part
those
of the character.
kinds. Yeah.
So,
But then the other thing too, before he leaves, again,
yeah,
just if you could not hammer it home how bad of a mother this is throughout all of this, like the icing on the cake before he leaves, she turns to him and says, "By the way, happy birthday."
yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. No. I know I skipped to him walking. The glass of water and him walking out was funny, but yes, she asked for money, and then he says, "If the cliche, well, I can just quit what I'm doing and work more hours and work more." It's like, okay, it's not what did I say? I said, it is a cliche, but like, what else are you gonna do? I mean, there's only a couple options in the world. You either work or don't, kind of deal. And then shows up for a glass of water, leaves before drinking it, and I put it's his birthday.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, they really, I mean, like if there was ever any doubt that this is the world's worst mother, it was thrown out of the window because they gave it to you all in that one scene. So you know exactly what you're getting out of that.
Well, I'll bring it up now and we'll talk about it later. This first episode has a whole movie's plot. That is
Yeah.
the issue, is like they got to have all the character development right in that first initial scene, because it skips light years ahead. Like here soon, like in about 5 minutes, you're going to be like, what the fuck is happening? How did he do that? Anyway, so that scene ends. We ready to move on? You want to talk about his mom more?
Well, I have in the notes, there is that one scene, I believe it's either right after or right before this, when he's in by himself in
Yes,
the
that's about to
apartment.
come up. Yes,
Okay, that is this next one.
I
Okay,
think
I'll go
there's
for
a
it.
funny moment that starts. He walks into his apartment, grabs the remote, turns the TV on. UFC news is automatically playing right at the time that he turns it on. No commercials, just them talking specifically about, I think it was GSP at the time.
Mhm.
Okay. Gets mad at his life, hits the bag wild as hell with no wraps, probably sprains his wrist, but fair. I did feel that. I did feel it. I get mad sometimes and I want to hit things. I'm okay with it.
Well, and my note about it was that, like, again, on the nose stuff, it was like the TV was talking directly to his life. Like
Yeah.
the way the stuff that they were saying from the television was just like, in parallel to everything that he's doing. Oh, GSP worked so hard and he tried so hard and this and that. And it's like, I wanted the TV just to basically be like, hey, guy, do you hear what we're saying? Because it was essentially what they were doing.
There's one thing that I want to give praise to this show for. They decently depicted what a person who's aspiring to do something with, in any physical capability, and you are a young person who doesn't make a lot and you're making ends meet, and they show you what you have to eat, and it's a bowl of powder and milk. And like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's real true. He's not here. He's not going to eat a steak dinner like they would show in like a big time movie. Oh, he's eating the greens. He's got his vegetables. He's got everything in the main food. It's like, no, he eats a bowl of fucking ice cream with protein powder or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was ramen, but it's the
No,
same difference.
there was two. No, he definitely had the protein, but they were doing a whole showcase of the protein powder. Like they had 3 different bags that he was pouring.
Oh,
into the
yes.
bowl.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right about that.
But
Right.
he did do the ramen later, but then another one, it's like, he's a broke guy. I mean, I've eaten ramen before, dude. Like, I respect the way that they were depicting the appetite. Not the appetite itself, but the food incoming. I don't know. I think that was a great point. I know it didn't make sense. And then the scene ends pretty quickly. That was the one where you can see quickly, like he was making his bowl. You can see around his apartment, there's just bottles with fucking no lids on them. And it was, context, I guess. His bed was made, though. I did notice that the bed was made, because I normally like to look at these scenes and I'm like, did they make it look like somebody lives here?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
And I agree. It looked pretty good. I think the little things were here. Some of the little things that they were doing, you can see that it was good attempt.
Props on the set dressing.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And then that scene ends relatively quickly after he hits the bag and gets mad at himself. Do you have anything else to add there?
No, not for that part.
Okay. He walks in the gym again the next day,
Mm-hmm.
takes one last look around. Actually, takes one last look around, right? This isn't when he's about to quit, I don't think.
I think it might have been. I think that
Okay.
was, yeah, I think that that was at that point. But that's why
Okay.
I
So,
think that it was odd that the coach before that was so down on this kid, because like up until that point, we had no reasoning for why the coach didn't believe in him.
yeah. Okay. So he takes one last look around. And, he tells everybody that he's quitting, and they're like, "Oh, if it's financial, we can figure something else out." And he's like, "Nah, I'm just blah 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 blah. Don't want to do it anymore."
Mm-hmm.
Now the big bad guy shows up.
Yeah, I say Cobra Kai rolls in.
No, you actually, Cobra Kai is probably a better one. When they first interacted, it felt just like I said, this is the Kung Fu Panda villain. Like this is the evil master, and he's, well, not the master, but the evil protege coming to get his throne or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said shitty coach, and club should have jumped them all for walking in there and saying, we will take on any one of you. Like, dude, there's like 30 of you guys. There was 5 at max. Like, you could have beat the shit out. And then, so, because the bad guys come in and they're like, yo, we'll fight anybody. We want to fight anybody, anywhere, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, how did you even get this far? Who let you in the door? If you pushed past them, this is an MMA gym. Like, you should have some culture. Like, we're not going to let you fucking come in here. Like, we're supposed to be competitive. Like, we're raising people to be title to championship level, whatever you want to say. Nobody's going to walk in your fucking gym and say, we'll beat everybody in here. Like, no. First off, listen, and that's old school pro wrestling shit. That ain't even mixed martial arts. You don't walk in you have some respect. And if you think you're going to shoot on me, buddy, you got another thing coming. You'll get choked out with bare hands. Anyway. So everybody's scared. Everybody's scared. I even wrote, we're all scared here. Nobody wants to fight. Nobody has the balls to say anything. And they're all saying, bro, just go, please.
Yeah, they're like begging this guy to leave. Like, just go, man. Come on.
And then so our hero is the only one to say something, and everybody's like, "Oh my, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why would you say something?" Like, as of everybody else isn't screaming, him saying, "I'll do it." Like, nobody would have even heard him. Like, they probably could have got away with it. But then
well, my thing with he says that when the guy that the big bad guy has like 30 pounds on him. I mean, like, this dude is so much bigger than him, but okay, fine.
Yeah, and dude, I just can't emphasize more like how shitty this coach is. He does not know how to run a gym, how to lead, how to be inspirational. I said a lot there, but like, he does not know what the fuck he wants to do. And I think I even said at one time, like, he's just lost his love for the game. Like, he just does not want to be there anymore. So anything else on that scene? Because it does go next to something else.
Well, I mean, yeah, what it leads into is one of the, kind of backs up your point too, is that, yeah, he might not know how to do much, but one thing he definitely knows how to do is capitalize on social media the way that, because the point is with that is that the big bad guy is known for hurting other fighters that he's sparring with before his fights. So he's often filming when these sparring sessions. He's breaking the cardinal rule of almost every gym on the planet. You don't film your spars. He's filming all of them and intentionally hurting everybody that he's sparring with. So anyway, I mean, that's leading into what happens next year.
Yes. So they go to the scene. They're in the locker room. He's wrapping up his hands because they're going to do it. They're going to throw down. That's what's happening. His buddy. And this is the Ned from Spider-Man effect, where you just got to have the fat, lovable kind of guy.
Another trope. Yes, they have the fat comic relief kid. That is absolutely the case.
You got to be funny and fat. Like, that's if you're like, that's the thing. Anyway, so
just hang it out at the gym too.
And that's he was carrying a weight ball earlier when the villain walked in, and he's like, "Oh fuck!" And then he like drops it and runs to the coach, and it's like, why are you the coach's bitch? Like, you don't even look like you lived here. But anyway.
Just happy to be there.
Yeah, no. Okay. So, and this was before I even knew they were buddies. So I'm like, why is the dude at the gym that doesn't even participate showing our guy who's about to fight the guy? He's like, dude, do you see this? He's fucking killed everybody, dude. Like, he's like right next to him. He's like, dude, he broke his arm. You see that shit? He's like, dude, he's gonna break your arm, man. He's gonna fuck you up. If that's his friend, no confidence at all either. Just like everybody else in the gym, even his girlfriend. And we'll get to the point before we walk to the ring where she's like, you can't do this. You gotta fucking stop. She had no faith. He is like the most, Like, they view him as the most soy dude in the gym. It's like, why would David ever challenge Goliath? Like,
Well, and an interesting note about the framework of all of that is that this is supposed to be a spar. Like, no one
yeah,
is supposed to be killing anybody throughout all of this, yet apparently they're all hyping it up like you're going to die in there. I mean, granted, we know that the big bad guy is hurting people during sparring sessions, but like it's supposed to be like there shouldn't be anybody shouldn't be getting hurt, period.
no, there's a great moment coming up. Okay, so after we're walking to the cage, after the shitty teammate shows every time that the dude's broken the dude's arm, we're walking to the cage. We have the girl who still has no face. She's like, dude, you can't do this. You got to stop. Here's your last chance, blah, 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 blah. He walks in the cage. I made a note. Coach is still shitty as hell because he's just sitting on the sidelines, arm crossed, and he's like, he's a fucking idiot. He's an idiot. He's going to get wrecked. There's no fucking chance. And I even said, won't even corner him. Like, he's just in the crowd. He's
Yeah.
not even like up on the cage. He's got the fat guy and Chase Hooper as his fucking teammates, which we'll get into him later in just a second, because that was a really funny moment. So, speaking of, this was supposed to be a sparring match, I put dumbass thought he was going to use his pads because he was in the middle of the cage. And they're the bad guy's getting ready to set up his camera. He's doing his pad work and he's doing all this and that. And then our hero was like strapping on his leg pads, and the villain's like, "What are you doing that for? Take them off. You gotta feel this, man." And by the way, back to the voice acting. I thought it was pretty solid. In the going from just a situational like talking, later we get more of that from the villain. In this moment, you got to sound like aggressive, like you're ready to do something. I thought it was very solid. So,
All right, fair.
dumbass thought it was padded. That was a very funny note that I thought I made. Great camera work, I thought, was something I noted in the actual octagon sequences when they were striking. Like, the camera work was not bad, especially when they would switch to a shot where he's supposed to be hitting the camera kind of deal. I thought it was very well done. Decent striking as well done in the actual filming of the process.
Yeah, I was going to say overall, the fight choreography throughout the show is done very well.
Yes, true. And it makes you wonder also. It's like, because I know when you're filming, there's a reason that performers and actors, or athletes and actors, are different. It's because like you have to be able to exaggerate the motion a little more for the camera. So maybe that's why they got, MMA actors. But like, we've seen plenty of times, people who are portraying athletes, they don't portray the athletic ability like, the Winning Time TV show about the Showtime Lakers. Like, you could see in a lot of those, the athletes are not the athletes that they're portraying, kind of deal. In this one, I thought portraying, random MMA athletes at this point, it's like, okay, they do fine enough. Like, they're not trying to be Taylor Lapilus. Taylor Lapilus isn't putting on the performance of himself in the cage, kind of deal. I don't know. So it was a little better, I thought. Decent striking. The bad guy casually keeps stopping to take his mouthpiece out and talk trash. Just walks away
while he is beating the ever-loving hell out of this kid. I mean, he is just pummeling him, ends up rocking him really bad at one point. He goes down off of that. This is the note that I had about this as things progress a little bit more. So, it starts off, the big bad is just wrecking shop against this kid in what is supposed to be a spar, continuous. I mean, this goes on for an extended period of time. He is rocking the hell out of him. This dude, our hero, gets one sweep on the villain, and then the fucking coach says, "No, get our cameras going. We need to now get our own social media."
You're missing so much.
Oh my God.
Okay. Casually stops, with the mouth guard. Our hero getting manhandled.
Yes.
Stops for the fight, for the trash talk again. Then our hero gets slept, basically. He gets knocked down,
right,
face for that flat on the mat. Okay. You would think
that should be the end of it.
He won. Okay, no. Nope, he gets up. Then, after he gets slept, now the coach is like, oh, fuck. Like, he had the Trevor Whitman moment. He got excited when our hero went down face first. Okay. The coach jumps in. Then we get a flying knee from the villain that sets up, a very heavy beatdown against the cage, right? Then you get Chase Hooper, who opens the cage, walks in, and tries to stop the fight.
I forgot about
that.
And
then he gets Spartan kicked across the cage. And then boom, our hero. Our hero knew what he had to do. He gets the sweep just like his coach told him. And then the bad guy stops again, goes to his corner, and says, "Stop recording." Do
Yeah,
not record him
right.
anymore because he got something on him that shows weakness. And then you have the fat nerd. He goes up to the coach and he says, "Coach, can I go get on the social media page and start?" And the coach is like, "Go fucking do it." And then
That's was the craziest thing to me.
at this moment, you would think now the coach is involved with him. This is the moment where he believes in him. He sees that like there's the star potential. We get this on camera and we got good things coming. Okay, okay. Then after beating up the teammate, they continue the match. This is the worst gym imaginable. Like no, like okay, horrible. Everyone involved is going to hell, is what I put in this note because none of them tried to stop anything that happened there. I mean, Chase Hooper did, of course, but he got kicked to oblivion, and then nobody else stepped in. Okay, and then I put down the social media war begins because that and this is modern storytelling. Social media is a very important part of culture, and you do have to. It does take a lot of movies. When you look at horror movies, there's a lack of phone aspect in those social media, that is anything of that sort, and it's because it would make the story a lot easier. I know it's not the same case here, but it does take a special eye to be able to implement a social media aspect into the story, and it actually one be sensible, kind of makes sense. I know it's kind of cliche. They stopped live streaming and now we gotta stop, but it's like a decent attempt, right? It's something that I've never seen before. I kind of give
Well,
them
yeah, no,
props there.
I give him credit for the implementation of the social media in here because it is such a big part of how this sport propagates and how you have to present yourself in this sport. But yeah, when it comes to what you just said about like, one person shutting the camera off and then them starting it, my thing was he got one sweep.
No,
Like,
I know, and it was very funny. It was very funny because then obviously he gets the one sweep, and then our hero at this moment at the first episode of the show, surely he doesn't win this battle. Like I mean, he's gonna come back and beat him in the fifth episode, for the belt or
right.
something. But no, he gets a sweep. They get back to the feet, and the words that he didn't pay attention to earlier in the fight, where get off the center line. His buddy literally told him that because he was asking him in the back like, "How show me how to beat him?" He's like, "You got to get off the center line," and he does that, and he hits him once and drops him on his face, and it was. Listen, and they want to try to, and obviously I'm playing into it a little bit, but like they want to talk about how it wasn't a knockout. Brother, he was knocked out by the dude. And I think it was really funny that the hero overcomes all the adversity in 20 minutes of his entire career. So I think, again, I said it earlier, an entire movie's plot happens. And up until this point, this is the Rocky Balboa ending. Like this is where he finally gets the moment his friend gets hurt and he fucking But anyway, so knocks him out. Then they pick up the hero or the villain. The hero is like in awe, like, "Oh my God, did I just do that?" And then the villain gets carried off because the fight's over now. Now that he got knocked down,
Right.
now they carry him away. And he didn't actually say it, but he wanted to say like, "And I'll get you next time, you mother," shit like that. Like they're carrying him away. And I said, obviously saves the opponent for the future fight. And then the coach hits him with the "You did good" speech. "You did good, kid." That one.
Right.
And then hits him with the "Oh yeah, and you should stay here for more of my shitty coaching."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like yeah. And then actually at this moment I said decent trash talk on the dub from the villain. Like I really thought that it was decent when they this was sorry, scene ends if you want to add anything to that one.
No, well, I mean, was that the same scene where the coach said that the same stuff from earlier still applied?
No,
That's
no,
later. Okay, that's later.
that one's one scene after. So this
Okay,
next scene
gotcha,
that comes
gotcha.
up, they go to Poland, and this is the press conference with the villain and the Polish guy.
Yeah, I
And
did want to say something about this real quick
okay,
though, is that it was nice. So throughout all of this show, sometimes when it comes to shows like this, you'll have to have stand-ins for like the UFC or for certain fighters. You'll have like a guy who represents a John Jones, but it's not actually John Jones. This kind of stuff. It was nice that this is actually UFC being represented in here, and then the organization that they were on in Poland was KSW. So it was nice to see another organization that's not the UFC. I mean, KSW is a much smaller organization, but still a legitimate one, getting actual airtime and representation. I was very happy with that.
Okay, so we get to a press conference. This is the upcoming fight between our villain and his opponent,
Mm-hmm.
and the trash talk from our villain is extraordinary. The dub absolutely murdered this role of somebody who's just supposed to just talk trash for just whatever reason it has to be, and let me see. Yeah, so decent trash talk. And then that scene kind of ends with a little scuffle, I believe, because I think word goes around about the knockout. Like, hey, like the reporter asks, like, hey, I heard you got knocked out in light sparring or whatever. And then he flips out and
Well,
starts.
that's an interesting point in general. Like when we were talking about how the social media plays into all of this, is that like things go viral, like, and the entire fucking world knows about it on this show.
I
Good
have plenty.
lord.
I have plenty to say about it. Okay. So that scene ends. If you
But
have
so
more
no,
time. Okay, cool.
so in the press conference, so what ended up happening was that I agree with you actually. It was a good representation because what the reporter asks him about the knockout, and the response from the villain was pretty good. He said something that like makes sense in this sport. It's like, oh, it was a spar. I wasn't really warmed up, blah blah blah, like all things that you would actually hear someone say in a circumstance like that. So I liked that. It was actually accurate. And then the way that he ended it, and what ended up going to the scuffle, was that he was like, I'm all warmed up now, and I mean, I'm not going to let that happen from a bitch like this. And then the
Yeah,
other guy starts
exactly.
going at him, and that's what the
Exactly.
scuffle was.
And that line was killer. Okay.
Yeah.
So that scene ends, and then it opens up at the gym again, and you got the coach doing coach paperwork because everybody has to be doing busy work. Like they can't just be coaching the actual fucking people.
Yeah, coach doesn't do much coaching in this show, period.
Yeah, okay.
At
And
least not
then
yet, anyway.
so he goes up to him and he asks, "So what's next?" And the coach we talk about this at work more recently, weaponized incompetence. The coach pulls this card where he has no memory of what just happened. That the only person in the gym that was willing to take a fight did, right? And I said, he asked what's next, and the coach looks at him and he's like, "What do you mean? Like, what are you asking?" And he's like, "Are we gonna like? What are the next steps? Like, am I gonna be training harder? Are we gonna like do something?" And he's like, "No, like everything that I said the other day before you did what you did, like that stands. I exactly what you were saying just a minute ago." He literally tells him, "Yeah, no, you're still not going anywhere. Like, I don't care if you think that you did good in that fight. Like, I don't know." And this is what I put. Coach literally hates this guy.
Yeah, I
Literally hates
don't
him.
understand what this kid did to the coach. The kid just knocked out a dude who has a fight in a professional fight. This kid is an amateur at the time. He's got his big bad villain has a professional fight coming up in a known MMA organization outside of the country that they're in, and this is not good enough for this coach. I
Yeah.
don't know what this dude did to this coach.
This guy, I'm hoping by the end of the series, he gets a new fucking team. Like, I'll bring up another funny thing. So, more recently in the NBA 2K games, there is an option when you start to leave your agent or, to pick the longtime friend or to get the new upscale agent. This is not the time to keep the old boys back home, my guy. You got to get rid of this coach, this team, everybody around you. They don't believe in you. The girl don't like you. The fat guy wants to show you people breaking getting your arm broke, whatever you want to say. Anyway,
Well,
coach.
by the end, we'll talk about the ending, but of
Yeah,
the episode. But we know that the things are going to change. But
yeah,
either way,
yeah.
that's a little teaser.
So, coach literally hates bro. Coach hates his job. Love for the game is gone. Cares about his pupil who blows him off though, because in the scene after we got to watch our hero sit there with a blank face again, just while the coach shits on him for 5 minutes, and then he leaves, and then the star child, which I don't even believe was the same star pupil as it was in the earlier episodes. Like I think it was a different guy, but this one now he's like, "Where are you going, dude? What are you?"
Earlier in this episode.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Well, where are you going, dude?" Like, and he's like, "I'll be back. I gotta just go. I'm just gone for an hour. I'll be back. Don't worry, coach. I got you." And he's like, dude, come on." Like, and I don't want to say it, but like he's riding bro hard. Like, and he not even trying to take it serious. But you got a dude who's willingly asking you how to get better, what I can do to get better, what hours to put where, and I'll do the things that nobody else will do. Anyway, I know it's a movie or a show, so I'm not gonna get too frustrated. But this was so fucking bad from the coach. The coach is so fucking horrible. And I'm really hoping that you're ready to get into the next scene, but I will let you get
Oh
into
yeah,
it.
no. Well, I mean, it's to lead into the next scene.
Yes.
The way that this ends is that our hero casually tells the coach, again, talking about how things go mega viral. By the way, coach, I'm going on Cyril Gahn's podcast.
I just thought about why this is actually a good thing. Because if you like other things in this show, obviously, there's a lot of things that go on in his personal messages that we will never see. Just like anybody else down the street, you don't know what they're talking about with who, you don't know what they're setting up. I think it's a good aspect in that regard that things happen that we don't get to see because it's just happening on his personal DMs. Like, we're not going to be able to watch him text everybody. That's just, whatever. But in this moment, yes, he comes out and says, I'm going to be on Surreal Gon's podcast. And then the scene starts next, and he's in the, he's backstage, and his teammates showing him like GSP liked his knockout. And he's like, well, oh, that can't be real. This is a you should keep this a note for later. He's like, whoa, no, that's not real. That can't be the real one. And then I think his buddy says something along the lines of like, you should message him or something like that. Or maybe he brought it up like, maybe I'll message him or something.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think my point with why I felt that was kind of crazy is that it's like, yeah, I mean, I granted French MMA is a much smaller group, it's a smaller pool. I'm sure it's a smaller community in general, but it is just kind of crazy that this dude has this one moment that goes mega viral within the French MMA community, and now everybody who is even tacitly connected to French is knowing about this. Cyril Gahn wants him on the podcast, and GSP, who's not in France, he's in Canada.
I am just so ready to talk about the next scene.
Yes, okay. So it's leading into his appearance on Cyril Gahn's podcast, and this is a very, very entertaining little scene that's coming up here.
So to note, this is a podcast that is hosted by Cyril Gahn. And when I say hosted, I mean the dude that voice acts him may as well be like Bob Barker or something. Like, he is in full-on game show host. Like, and I'm watching it, and I wrote down, Cyril Gahn is the host, and his dub is doing him such good justice, I'm sure. Because when I'm watching him, like, he does look like he's just kind of relaxed and, in like a podcast mode, but the voice that's over top of him is absolutely hilarious because he's more involved than I've ever seen Cyril Gahn involved with anything.
Well, and it's also a little bit of a stretch to say that Cyril Gahn is the host of this show when his two co-hosts are taking over the entirety of the show, and all Cyril Gahn is doing is saying, hey guys, maybe not go so hard, because these co-hosts are a pair of fucking pricks.
Dude, okay, so I said the next thing is, okay, now we're on shit on the guest moment of the show. And then I put
for a long time.
And then I put, because it went on for a long time, that I had time to make this second note. These are the worst co-hosts of all time.
They were atrocious.
Like, if they had their own show, okay, niche audience maybe will enjoy them. But for Cyril Gahn to just be having a good time looking at these dudes, it just did, dude, it was fucking horrible. It was so fucking funny because Cyril Gahn, if you understand what the dub sounds like, guys, and the way that he's just delivering, come on now, guys, like, come on.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to realize, like, we're not even really doing justice to how hard these two guys are shitting on our hero here. I mean, they come in, and it's basically like, it starts off like a normal conversation. Essentially, who's your favorite fighter is who they ask, what they ask the hero. He says GSP is his favorite fighter, and then immediately these two are like, well, you're never going to be GSP. Let's take a look at this. And they show a clip. It's a 10-second clip that they show of him at one point during a fight where he's evading and he's, quote unquote, running. He does a little bit of a trot around. This is a 10-second clip. The hero even says, it's just a brief portion, and I ended up winning that fight. But these dudes are running with this ball so far down to the end zone. I mean, like, they do not let up for a second when they are getting on this guy's case.
To be fair, though, and I think this is another great example of whoever's directing this, they do have a good sense of social media, right? Because they could have easily shown a clip of him getting knocked out. Like, oh, well, what happened here? Like, you're face down. Ha, 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 ha.
Right.
But it's like they show a clip that's like, you get why somebody would like make fun of that. Like, I do that about CJ Vergara all the time. Dude was running full circles around the cage when Tamirov was chasing him down.
Yeah, and they even added the little sound effect in there too, the little running sound or whatever.
Yeah. So that was really funny. Also, another thing that was really good about it, and not good in the sense that they portrayed it well, but it's like you got a sense of that nagging voice because Surreal Gone is, he's like, come on, champ, don't listen to them. They're going to be good. But in the background, you still hear them laughing and talking about it's like, and you see his face. Obviously, he's got that blank expression, but like, then they ask like, well, we're going to move on to the next segment, whatever. Are you going to stay around for the Q&A? He's like, I mean, I guess if you want me to, guys, like, I guess, like, so he's gonna get shit on even more is basically what they were, alluding to is he's going to be on the show with these two dickheads.
Yeah.
Surreal Gun doesn't know how to not have people shit on his fucking.
Well, I think that's another good point too, is that this show did not, I mean, I don't know if Cyril Gahn actually has a podcast or not, but like if this did not make Cyril Gahn out to be a very good podcast host. Like he's got these two co-hosts over here who are running rampant, shitting all over their guests, and Cyril Gahn is basically just sitting back like, hey, guys, come on, let's lighten up a little bit. And that goes on a long fucking time.
I want to go back to the beginning of this because I actually think there was a really funny moment we didn't bring up. They bring up that Surreal Gone lost to John Jones.
That is funny. Yes, they did. They did because our hero says, I'd like to say that it's John Jones is my favorite fighter, and I don't want to piss off Cyril Gahn. And Cyril Gahn's like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, which was really funny, I know it's a dub thing, but like in the moment, it looked like he was genuinely having a good time with the banter. Surreal Gone, that is. Like, if I don't know, it seemed like a really funny moment for him as well. Like, it seemed like he was okay with it. Like, man, throw the John Jones thing out there. Like, that'll be good for the show, And then also the people on the chair, they say something along the lines of like, yeah, we're gonna have a champ from fucking Paris, and like Surreal Gone's like sitting right. It's like, are you guys not on his side? Like, who are you?
Yeah, they were just terrible hosts, period. Yeah. I mean, unless that was specifically the aim was to like shit on whoever you're talking to.
Yeah, that was weird. That was a weird one. Anyway, anything else you want to add to that scene?
To the podcast?
Okay.
No.
Okay, so next scene starts, and this is where I have the note that they have real UFC fighters who portray fake fighters, and then they have fake fighters who portray UFC fighters in this because they bring two UFC guys to the gym to show them some training. And this is when he pulls out his phone in the middle of his, and he's watching, she says, don't look at the negative comments, but like I don't know. He was probably, as we see towards the end, he was probably making his connections, he's probably doing something different. But at that point, I mean, he's clocked out of the whole thing. He just got told by his coach, like, he ain't going to be nothing. Why would I pay attention to the shit you guys got going on? He showed up, so that was his own fault. But like, at that time, dude, you got to figure out something fucking new. Like, don't be sitting here wasting your time and their time because you want to be playing on the phone while there was a decent instruction going on, whatever you want to say. But I think that's all I have to say about that scene.
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't too much to that one.
Yeah. I think it was just the girl trying to fuck with him, even though, she doesn't seem to like him yet. As of a whole movie happening in this first episode, he did not get the girl. I will confirm that. So, moving on.
Oh, well, actually, no, I did have one thing about that because you're talking about when the guest fighters came in, right, to the gym. So the one note that I have was that these guest fighters come in and they're supposed to teach MMA boxing techniques. And
they're grappling.
Immediately goes into grappling. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
Ground and pound, and then it's also funny because the coach is then trying to coach those fighters. It's like, first off, you don't even coach your own fighters. You brought these guys in to coach your fighters. Like, don't fucking try to start now to show off. Like the UFC guys come in and now you know how to.
Yeah, suddenly you want to do your job.
Yeah, like that shit's ridiculous. Okay, so anyway, scene ends, goes back to his apartment. The news is playing again, UFC news. They're talking about UFC Paris. Taylor Lapilus is now himself in the show. He's not just somebody in the gym. Maybe that's a thing later. Like maybe maybe he was at the gym. Like maybe later in the series, he'll be like, wow, I used to train. Like we used to be at the same gym. I don't know. You would think that would come up. Like, oh, we just have somebody who's going to be participating, but I don't think so. Taylor Lapilus is in probably the smallest suit that he could have gotten. And he shows up. It wasn't a good color scheme either. I've never been a fan of the blue with the brown shoes. It just didn't look good. So he's watching the news. And then because everything moves so quickly and also at the same time, nobody gives a shit, he sees himself on the news. He sees himself on the news getting a knockout.
Right. His clip, the clip that has been going around, going viral, is being shown on the news now.
Yes. And so then he has a moment, doesn't seem as excited as somebody. If I got on the news, like I'd probably fucking run around the room or something, have an exaggerated performance for something that is remarkable in my career. I've never been on the news for doing, let alone anything. It's some knocking out the most feared dude in professional MMA at the time in the fucking, show. But sees himself on the news, picks up the phone, calls his friend, and he's like, hey, you still got that one ticket? And his buddy says, yeah, I have a guy who's going to buy it for $5,000. And then he hits him with the, so, is there any chance that and then he's like, no, I'm not going to give it to you, and then hangs up on him.
Yeah, this is the wildest
Yes.
moment of the whole show coming up here in a moment. I did want to just say real quick about Taylor Lopoulos on the news broadcast that I do think that at least the way that he was conducting himself with the dub, it's a little hard to tell, but I think his post PFL analyst career might be around the corner. I think that he actually like carries himself like a broadcaster. So maybe something for Lopoulos down the line. But coming into what we're going to talk about now, this is the craziest portion of this whole episode.
So there's a scene in between kind of deal where we walk into the bad guy's room at the backstage, or maybe they're at the house of the event. It's not really clear. It seems to be in the arena. He's just in a room watching the event. And I made a note of this. There were swords on the staircase. I don't know why. It was a weird touch because you have a staircase going up and there's like a little pad right here. But like nothing obviously goes on those normally, so they just have like a rack of like katanas. Like
that's why I think it was. I think it was his apartment. I don't think it was that, because I had the same impression of it, but I think that it couldn't have been at the actual arena, right?
Well, okay, couldn't be at the actual arena, but then so you're watching the bad guy watch the news, and then the newscast at the UFC event plays the knockout. They bring up that, oh, here's such and such in light sparring and he got knocked out by blah blah blah. And yeah, the hero is being played everywhere, and they still treat him like ass. Like they go back to the fucking, they show like the coaches like at his gym and the team watching the event, and they're like, oh my god, they're showing his knockout. It's like, you guys didn't give a shit. You watched it live. Like, I don't care if they're watching it now. You didn't give a shit when you saw it. Like, now you're happy that they're playing it on the news. Like, they played it 2 weeks ago. It's just now on UFC. He showed you the clip.
Like, yeah, that at our hero's gym is they're now cheering for him, even though they didn't care before.
And then so you have a guy who's sitting next to our bad guy villain, and he's telling him about these money plays. Like, I got a good parlay, or I got a good bookie set up, something like that. But then he throws out, I have specialists working to scrub the internet of the video.
Yeah, that is the craziest. That and the next thing are the craziest things in here. But that in and of itself, I was like, you're going to do what? You're going to try to scrub the internet of the video? Talk about the Streisand effect in real time.
Yeah, and then so our hero gets named. He gets name dropped on the ESPN or UFC, whatever it is, and then and I wrote this down after, but I'll mention it first. Our hero is clearly a fan of the dark arts with how he pulls off the things that he does, because out of nowhere he gets called onto the stage to talk about the incident that happened at the gym.
He casually strolls on to the UFC broadcast.
Oh, wait, we forgot a crucial scene. How did he get to the UFC? The scene opens and he just has a ticket after his buddy told him he wasn't going to give
it. I think the implication is that the buddy ends up finally giving in, but we didn't actually get that, that information. But so yeah, he's outside of the event, takes a picture in front of the big UFC logo, and then walks inside. And then essentially, like the way that it plays out in the show, he would have had to go into the arena and then just find the broadcast and then just walk onto it.
Yeah, so they made it seem like he did magic. Like he got a ticket and he talked to the nearest guy at the gate and said, I need to talk to Dana White. And they took him to him right away. That was the most crazy thing ever. So our hero knows magic is what I said. And then I wrote down, no way is the whole first episode a dream sequence, because that's how quickly and how insane this got. I was thinking maybe he got knocked out and this was him dreaming the rest of it. I'm serious, because it was insane for him to go on there, to one, get a ticket, get into the arena, get onto the broadcast, get his video played, have a moment where they bring him on with like a good celebration. It's like as if it was planned all along, but clearly the show is not telling you that kind of deal. And then he calls out our villain for a night of replacement, which, if you remember context, villain's at home watching the fights. Our hero is on the broadcast booth, says he's made weight and ready to fight. Okay. I put here whole movie's plot within episode 1. The villain denies a rematch, and then I'll let you go. I'll let you talk about that one, and then we'll talk about the big reveal.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, the funny thing with that is that he calls out the villain, who's the champ, I guess, over in the organization that he's fighting in, calls him out on the TV, doesn't stay for UFC Paris, just walks out of the arena, and then somehow he, that comes into the next thing, which is the reveal that you're talking about. So go ahead.
Yes. So there is a reveal at the end of the first episode, which, if it would have happened, some different way, and this was a reveal in episode 4 going into 5 or something, and then we have a big send-off in 5 with these dudes, it would have been more interesting. And this was the moment that I knew that nobody had seen this show, because there is a reveal at the end of this that the way that our hero was able to have the strings pulled for him is because he reached out to George St. Pierre, and that has been his overarching mentor for an unquestionable amount of time, and apparently just got him on the UFC card, got him in the booth, got him ready to call out his next fight, and presumably going to be training him going forward.
That's the big thing. So it's like, yeah, I mean, as far as I know, and we'll of course find out in the second episode, but the way that it would seem to me is that GSP is still in Canada. But so he's talking to him on the phone, and this kid says, "Oh, I guess we're going to start training now." So I guess this kid is now going to go over to Canada to go train with George St. Pierre for this fight. I guess that we'll find out. But yeah, this whole thing had been leading up to George St. Pierre being the new mentor who's going to take the place of this shitty gym that he was in, get this kid ready for the fight of his life.
I just also think it's funny that our scrawny, frail hero says he made weight against like the heavyweight champ or whatever it is. Like the dude was imposing over him in their little sparring.
At least 30 pounds on this guy.
Yeah. So the fact that they didn't plan this one out accordingly, I think, is a little, I don't know. How GSP is going to fit into the rest of the story is going to be really funny to me, because like I said, nobody clearly has seen this, because that reveal at the end of the first episode is like bombshell worthy, because like, where did that even come from? What did they make the whole first episode, and after like they shot the pilot, GSP was like, okay, I got to be in this now. Like they, pilots, they got to get the idea out there and people jump on board after. If GSP was like, okay, rewrite the ending a little bit, I'll be the one to save the day. And then, they write him into the end or something. A phone call is easy because there was no shot with GSP near anybody else. So,
well, that's what we're going to have to find out, if they actually are going to be together in the second episode and all this. But yeah, I mean, I guess they set it up with the whole thing with GSP, liking the knockout or whatever. But like, it just seemed a little bit wild that all of this had gone this. We're talking about how the social media plays into everything. It went from the punch happens that gets him viral to now the entire world knows about this shot. I would think that the way that they're making it seem, us outside of the show in the real world would have known about this knockout the way that they're making it sound. So,
yeah,
GSP knows about it. Cyril Gahn knows about it. Everybody in France knows about it. The TV's talking about it. This is the hottest knockout to ever happen in a gym.
Yeah, this was actually an episode that happened in my life, and I'm very excited to go watch more, and I hope we get to talk about more, because this was fun. Like I really do enjoy talking about MMA and then TV shows and movies, and I think there's a good mix that we had here between the breaking down.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's episode 1 of The Cage. We're going to go back and we'll watch episode 2, and I guess we'll talk about that as well. There are only 5 episodes of this show so far. It's a short season. So this first season will only be those 5. we'll watch them independently, come back and do some more yapping about it, I suppose. Hopefully it continues to be as entertaining as it has been, because it's not a bad show. Like I definitely was never thinking like, oh my God, this is hard to watch. It's just funny in parts because of the way that they're like navigating the story. There's a lot of cliches in it. There's a lot of tropes that are being exposed, very regularly so far. But now all of that was in the first episode. So where is the rest of the story going to take us? We'll find out.
Yeah, it's like in a normal movie, all of this would happen over the course of 2.5, 3 hours or whatever. But in a TV show setting, you have to have different pacing between, a 5-episode show or whatever. But they used all of the cliche assets, like for a storyboard in the first episode. It's like, where's the overcoming moment? He already beat the bad guy. Like,
well, he's got to rebeat him. And I think that's going to be actually an interesting part is because my whole thing with the flash forward, which is what that very first scene was, like I said, that's flashing forward. It went 8 months back is what they had said. So we saw the initial scene of him walking to the cage, and that was the whole thing about he's been counted out and all that. And it's 8 months before that is where we start our story off proper. So my question is going to be, when do we actually get to that flash forward part, or what would be the present time at that time? Like what part of the series does that come into play? And I always feel a little skeptical about those anyway, because we are going to be watching everything that is leading up to that. So if that is the end of the first season, is when they finally are at that fight, we know that we're going to get there. So like all of this other stuff kind of is just somewhat irrelevant. Like we know that where the conclusion is going to be.
Well, and that's another thing I was going to bring up. So if you ever remember the original Daredevil with Ben Affleck, a lot of the movie's a flashback, but at the beginning of the movie, they show at him at the end of the movie, and he's like alive and living well or whatever. And it's like, well, I know that he's going to be fine. Like there's no, there's no threat in the story.
Right.
I mean, there might be hardship. Yeah, exactly. There might be hardships, and our hero might be broke and lonely and have nobody that believes in him. But at the end of the day, I can just live my own life. Like if that's what I want to see.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe there's more to the story that we don't know yet. Of course, we only watched the first episode. So we'll see episode 2, and we'll come back and report on that after we've watched it.
Hell yeah.
All right. So, I mean, I guess that is about it for tonight. Is there any other stuff that you wanted to get to before we close this thing out?
No, I think that's it. I think we are good on it.
Yeah, so if you see another stream coming up where it's got the Cage episode 2 review in it, if all of you go out there and you want to watch the Cage as well, watch the first episode after we've described it all, you can see what we're talking about. And then for episode 2, you come back, we'll talk about it, and you guys will be caught up as far as we are, and you'll know exactly what we're going to be talking about there too.
Hell yeah, 100%.
Right on. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for hanging out tonight. Much appreciated. Gonna try my absolute best to get a video out before the end of the week, but there is a slight possibility that I actually might go to the PFL fights tomorrow night. Not confirmed yet. Not confirmed yet, but they are happening. I do have the ability to go. We're going to have to see if I can make that happen, see what the Vitz King situation is like. But if that does happen, if I do end up going to PFL, then, we'll have to forego a video for this week. But I'm going to try to get one out either way. So keep an eye on the channel for that. Chase just had a prediction video come out on his channel. So where can they find that, Chase?
They can find that at youtube.com at CP Smalls.
There you go. Make sure you follow my dude on there. Subscribe. Watch the video. Give it a like if you enjoy it. And, of course, on Mondays, me and Chase have a podcast right here called Last Week's Fights. We will be going over each and every fight from UFC 314, which is coming up this weekend on Saturday. And we will both be doing individual watch-alongs of the event as well. So if you want to hang out with either of us for the fights, make sure that you do so, because we will be here watching with y'all.
Hell yeah.
All right. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. A great rest of your week, and we will catch you real soon. Take care and fight on.
It's